If you've ever needed to narrow down a dataset to just the rows you care about, this video is for you. Today, we're diving into how to filter data using Python Pandas. So postings cleaned is the data frame that we're using, and you can see it contains job posting information from LinkedIn. So first, let's look at the syntax of how to filter on a simple condition. So let's say we want to see all the jobs that have a max salary greater than or equal to $50,000. To filter the data frame, we would take postings cleaned, and inside these square brackets, we would select the max salary column, and we would put in our condition. We want all the rows where the max salary is greater than or equal to 50,000. When we run this, you'll see that all the rows returned are the jobs that have a max salary of greater than or equal to 50,000. Now let's take a look at this code a little bit more. It might look a little bit familiar. It's very similar to column selection. However, instead of specifying a column name inside the square brackets, you're specifying the condition that you want to filter on. And this condition will return a series of true or false values. And the rows that get printed here are the rows that have a true value for this condition. By the way, if you are interested in seeing how we loaded and cleaned this postings clean data frame, you can check out the first two videos in this series if you missed them. Okay, back to filtering. Now we can also filter for more than one condition at a time. So this condition was really just an example. We don't want to really filter our data frame to only the jobs that are greater than or equal to 50,000, but this data set does contain jobs from all over the world, and it contains jobs that are both part-time and full-time. But for our analysis on data jobs, we want to filter down the data frame just to the jobs that are full-time and where the salary is in USD. So we can actually specify both of those conditions inside these square brackets instead of just specifying one condition. So we'll do postings cleaned, and then we'll set the condition of postings cleaned where work type is equal to full-time and where postings cleaned currency column is equal to USD. Now we want to wrap both of these conditions in parentheses, and I'll get to why in just a second. All right, so this is a lot of code, so let's break it down a bit. This first condition checks if the job is full-time, and the second condition checks if the currency for the salary is in US dollars. Now, in between these two conditions, we've specified this ampersand or this and you're probably used to seeing and typed out in actual words like this for conditionals. But in Pandas, when combining multiple conditions, you can't use the regular and or keywords. And that's because we're comparing an entire series, not just single values. So instead of and, you'll need to use the ampersand, and instead of or, you'll need to use this pipe character. And you also need to make sure that for each condition you specify in between these square brackets, you have to wrap it in parentheses. And this helps Python evaluate this statement in the right order. Now, if we remove these parentheses, you'll see we'll actually get an error. And it'll say like unsupported types for string, and really it just doesn't work. And the reason for that is that without the parentheses, Python is trying to determine what order to execute these operators in. So right now it might be doing something like work type equals full-time and postings currency equals USD. So it's trying to like evaluate this in parentheses. And that probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you, and it also doesn't make sense to Python, which is why we get this error. So long story short, whenever you're adding more than one condition inside the square brackets, just make sure each condition is surrounded by parentheses and you will be good to go. Now when we run this, we see everything works. So here you'll see everything is full-time and it's in USD. Now, running this code on its own doesn't actually filter the data frame. We actually have to save this as a new data frame. Now, one way we can do that is we can reassign the postings cleaned data frame to this code. And then when we print postings cleaned, it'll only contain the jobs that are full-time and that pay in USD. But a lot of times when I'm filtering the data set, I do like to store it as a new data frame just so I can reference the original non-filtered data frame if I need to. So that's what we'll do here. We'll store this filtered data frame as postings cleaned filtered. And when we print this data frame out, you'll see it only contains the full-time jobs and the jobs that have USD as the currency. Next, let's look at some filtering for string columns. The questions we want to answer in this analysis are all about data-related jobs. So let's filter the data frame down to rows that have the word data in the job title column. And to do this, we'll use the string contains function. So we'll take our filtered data frame that only contains full-time jobs paying in US dollars, and we will select the job title column. On that one, we'll use our string accessor. Again, what this is was covered in the last video, and then we'll type contains. We'll run the string contains function on that, and we'll check if it contains data. Now here I will call out that our job title column in our data frame has already been cleaned to have all the job titles be in lowercase. But if we hadn't done that and we had job titles that are mixed case, we could also pass the case parameter to the contains function and set that to false. That way it would ignore the case and it would really just look for the word data in the job title column, regardless of if it's data like this or data like this or data like this, it wouldn't matter, right? So we will reassign postings data frame to itself so it contains all the jobs filtered down to just data jobs. So I'll run this, and when we take a look at postings cleaned filtered, we'll see that the job titles are anything that has the word data in it. And you'll also see that we still have only the jobs that are full-time and where the currency is USD. There are other methods to filter data as well, and one of them is the query function, and this kind of works like a where clause in SQL. We can specify multiple conditions using a string. With this function, we can also change the data frame in place so that we don't have to reassign the data frame or create a new one. So let's say we want to filter down the data frame to all the jobs that have a max salary of over 100K and that are remote. So to do that, we'll take our original postings clean data frame instead of our filtered one, and we'll run .query. And now in here, instead of providing the conditionals like we were before, we'll give it the column name of max salary, and we'll say greater than 100,000. And here you'll see we're using the and keyword instead of the ampersand like we were using before. We can say where remote allowed is equal to 1. And for now, we'll do in place equal to true. Now, I will just mention here, in place equal to true will change postings cleaned in place. So you won't be able to get back to postings cleaned again once you do in place equals true. But for the example, just to show you how the function works, I will be changing the data frame in place. So I'll run that, and when we take a look at postings cleaned, you'll now see all the max salaries are greater than 100,000 and remote allowed is equal to 1. So these are all the jobs that are remote and that pay more than $100,000. Now there is actually one more way to filter a data frame, and that is using loc and iloc. However, we will cover that in the next video because in the next video we are going to look more at indexes. So we'll cover filtering data using loc and iloc in that video. But for now, this is the end of our pandas filtering video. If this video helped you feel more confident with filtering data in pandas, I would love it if you considered subscribing to the channel and giving this video a like. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next pandas tutorial to talk all about indexes. See you there.